Have you always wanted your own radio show or talk show? I know I have. Years ago, the process of achieving this would have taken many years and a lot of connections to even get a spot. Welcome to the Side Hustle Show. This is the show where we break down the side hustles that are trending online and show you how we do it. I'm Lucas Sakura, your host, and in this episode we are talking about podcasting. As always, before we begin, I need you to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you was like me in school and got in trouble for talking, now we can have our own show and I'll show you how to do it. Done? Let's go. Have you always wanted your own radio show or talk show? I know I have. Years ago, the process of achieving this would have taken many years and a lot of connections to even get a spot. But now, thanks to the internet, you can do this from the comfort of your home. And that is podcasting. So what is podcasting? Podcasting is an audio discussion series on a range of topics where users can listen or download easily on their personal device. Podcasting has become very popular over the years due to its easy to consume format via Spotify and iTunes, and its engaging topics which relates to all types of audiences on a business level or personal level. There are a number of reasons why you should start a podcast. Let's go through them. Building your brand. A podcast has the ability to build your brand with your interests on your terms. This allows you to express your passions whilst creating an organic audience at the same time. Building your network. Like I mentioned earlier, a podcast is easy to consume, which means it will reach many people. One way to continue to grow is to invite special guests to your podcast, such as social media personalities or experts from the topic that you're talking about. Doing this will expose your podcast to their audience who could be interested in your previous episodes or future episodes. Once your podcast becomes established and is reaching X amount of views, you are able to accept sponsorships from brands, which is the main way podcasts make money. So how does it work? You're probably saying, Lucas, I've always wanted to start a podcast, but first, do I need to book studio time? Do I need to buy expensive equipment to start? Well, guys, the answer from the podcast community is no. Let's get into more detail. First, you need to find a theme that you are interested in. For example, business, travel, sport, music, or fashion. Then you need to do some research on this theme so your podcast can have a structure. Moving on to equipment. Equipment is fundamental to your podcast. To start, you need a cheap and reliable microphone which can be found online, or you can use your phone which has a good microphone. Once your podcast is established, you can then later invest in a better one. In terms of recording, you need to find a quiet space that cancels out any background noise and echo.
Testing. Yeah, that's good.
So you can record without any distractions. Finally, you need to download the audio editing software to put all your audio together and make your podcast. Try to find those that are free, for example, Audacity or Audio Cutter. Then in the future, invest in those that will take your podcast to the next level. For example, Adobe Audition. Let's say you've edited and published your first podcast. Amazing, now it's time to maintain it. The advice from the community is to be consistent with your uploads and the content of your podcast. Consistency is the most important factor in being successful, as it builds momentum and improves your skills when recording and editing. Now it's time to go through the pros and cons of podcasting. Get your notebooks out. Guys, I got you. Pros. A variety of topics and audiences. When it comes to podcasting, the options are endless. There will always be a topic that you are interested in that someone else is interested in too. And the thing is, you're in control of the creative process, which is very rewarding once published and you see audiences engaging with the content. It's easy to set up. All you need is a computer, microphone, and an editing software to put all your audio together. And of course, internet connection. Simple as that. Time. When starting out, there will be times where you are editing for hours to make sure the podcast is perfect. It's important to be patient with the process as it will pay off in the long term. Therefore, try to create a schedule for editing and uploads to establish a structure with your podcast. Budget. Maintaining and improving your podcast is important if you want to be successful. As a result, you will need to invest money into equipment to improve your audience's listening experience. The aim is to create a podcast that will be shared by millions, and production plays a huge part in this. Exposure. Since a podcast is easy to set up, there will be many people talking about your topic. You need to be unique and separate yourself from the crowd. Exposure may take time, so you need to use social media to gain listeners to your podcast. Let me recap the pros and cons of podcasting. Pros: a variety of topics, easy to set up, reaching new audiences. And now the cons: time, budget, and exposure. Now this is the part of the show where we give an example of how I would do it. I can already see thousands of podcasts ready to get started. Let's go. So how would I start a podcast? As always, start off with interest and research what is currently happening in that topic. It's all about preparation, because without this, your podcast won't have a structure and listeners may switch off since there is no consistent theme or engaging topics. The first podcast is all about introducing the show and giving the audience an insight of what's to come. I'm into sports, sneakers and music, so my podcast will be based around those topics. In terms of getting people on the podcast, what I'll do is reach out to my friends or reach out to people that I know from each field, get them on the podcast to talk about what they do and their relevant topic. This is a great way to build audiences as they bring their audience to your podcast, and that will expose them to new content. In terms of equipment, I will invest into a good microphone from the start to maintain the audio quality throughout, as first impressions are very important to maintain an audience. Moving on to publishing the podcast. I will try to upload the podcast to as many platforms as I can, such as Spotify, iTunes, Google and YouTube. Doing this will allow it to be accessible to all viewers and lead to more engagement. Next up is promoting the podcast. I will share the podcast link and upload video teasers to social media to attract audiences from there. Spotify and iTunes has a feature where you can upload the podcast link to your Instagram stories and users can directly watch your videos from there. Running ads on social media is another option to attract listeners to your podcast. You're able to set a budget to reach new audiences that haven't discovered your podcast. And that's our show. Let us know how you will start your podcast in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.